Welcome to Preservation Oaks, the podcast where we invite you to step away from the bustle of everyday life. Settle in and relax, and take a moment to leave the familiar behind as we explore the hidden gems of America that preserve our cultural past. We call them our Preservation Oaks, and with each episode, we'll journey to a different corner of the country, where we'll discover the unique histories, landscapes, and communities that make up our nation. We'll visit with local museums, historical, and genealogical societies. They are the stewards of these stories. They preserve the legacy of each place like precious pieces of fabric in a quilt that binds the freedom-loving, hard-working people in this country together. So, slow down, grab a beverage, open your mind, and let us take you on a tour of the fascinating histories and heartfelt traditions that lie just beyond the horizon. This is Preservation Oaks, where every story is a stitch in the fabric of our shared culture. Now, join our host, Sean Radcliffe, as he uncovers another thread in the tapestry of America's heritage and what it takes to preserve it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Preservation Oaks. We're so glad you tuned in because we've got an inspiring cultural episode lined up for you. Joining us is Ms. Aubrey Wheeler, the Executive Director of the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum, located in Lindsborg, Kansas. This museum is a hidden gem, dedicated to keeping the pioneering spirit of the Smoky Valley alive through storytelling, education, and an incredible collection of artifacts. The museum brings history to life for every generation. Focused on the years 1870 to 1910, they showcase the rich cultural heritage of the region, especially the Swedish immigrants who helped shape it. Some of their buildings are even listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and their archives are packed with documents that might just help you trace your own family roots. Got Swedish ancestry? They've got research tools just for that, too. By the end of this episode, I promise you're going to want to be a part of their mission, and if you're a corporate donor especially, you're going to want to help them. They're well worth your time and your support. And hey, if you're enjoying the show, don't forget, you can find us on preservationoaks.podbean.com as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Odyssey, and most major podcast directories. So wherever you're listening, take a moment to hit that like button, drop a comment, follow, and subscribe. It really helps us more than you know. Got questions or feedback? Want to be a guest? Just shoot us an email at preservationoaks@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you. Now a big shout out to all of you who've been sharing the show. You're the reason we're growing, and your support shines a spotlight on the incredible people behind these heritage organizations. You're helping them get the recognition they deserve, so thank you, thank you, thank you. And please keep sharing. Support your local museums and heritage organizations, and let's keep history alive for us and for the generations yet to come. Now looking ahead, our next episode features Sharon Morgan, founder of the Our Black Ancestry Foundation in Macon, Mississippi. This incredible organization is on a mission to provide vital resources for African American genealogical research, preserve historical materials and sites, and foster healing from the legacy of slavery. They run the Our Black Ancestry website, and trust me, it's something special. So stay tuned because history isn't just about the past. It's about all of us right now. All right, that being said, let's get this show snapping. Now here's a short biography of today's guest. On today's episode, I'm thrilled to welcome Aubrey Wheeler, the visionary executive director guiding the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum into its next chapter. Aubrey holds an MA in anthropology and a museum studies certificate from Wichita State University and cut her teeth as director and curator of the City of Marion Historical Museum, where her leadership transformed local history into a living, breathing experience. Her passion for the past ignited in a sixth grade world history class and has only grown stronger. In Lindsborg, she's embracing the town's Little Sweden spirit, strengthening financial foundations, expanding community partnerships, and crafting hands-on programs that bring Swedish American heritage to life. Today on Preservation Oaks, we'll dive deep into Aubrey's bold vision for the museum, learn how she's rallying volunteers and supporters, and discover what's next for this dynamic cultural hub. Let's give a warm welcome to Aubrey Wheeler. All right? Welcome to the program, Aubrey.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, what's the significance of the Swedish Pavilion in Lindsborg?
So the Swedish Pavilion was designed by the Swedish architect Ferdinand Boberg in Sweden for the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. That building was then bought by W. Thomas, the U.S. minister to Sweden and Norway, and was gifted to Bethany College in Lindsborg. Over a few years, that building served as an art department, a library, museum, and classroom. In 1969, that pavilion was moved to the McPherson County Museum and now is currently at the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum.
Oh, fantastic. I love the old pavilion, the pictures you have on your website of the pavilion when the fair was actually in progress. You have some pictures there that show it, and it's exactly the same as it was. It's amazing.
Yes, we do everything we can to keep it as historically accurate as possible. That's always our biggest goal.
Now, the other thing that I really love about your organization is the fact that you have 15 acres there, and on the 15 acres, you have all kinds of things to see and do, and campgrounds and things for the public. It's just a fantastic place. The Old Mill is a central feature of the museum. Can you describe its historical significance and current role within the museum?
Yeah, of course. So the Old Mill is the only historic flour roller mill factory in the Midwest that can still operate. The inside's really what makes it special. It has 4 floors of both a single machine, effectively, and a work of art in the wood machines, leather belts, and metal wheels. So there's a lot of artistic touches across the mill. So the kind of notable ones people will see are the hand-routed teardrop-shaped access point covers across the mill, but also stenciling and leaf-shaped vents. The machines are mostly made out of oak or hardwood, the conduit mostly pine. And during operation, the mill would have employed 4 to 6 people. So while working, they would not have had AC, heating, no electric lights. When it first started out, it was also a sweaty, dirty, dark kind of job. But you can tell that they took personal pride in the place based upon just the beauty of the architect and the importance of having a mill for that community was very significant.
Well, I've seen pictures of the inside. Now, when I imagine an old mill, I imagine I'm going to walk in and I'm going to see dusty beams and old wooden floors that are craggly and so on. But the pictures I've seen show that, at least maybe they've enhanced them or something, but show that they've varnished or painted all the beams and it's totally clean. It's got lights. It's a wonderful atmosphere. Was that all done in restoration?
Yes. When it shut down, it sat for quite a number of years and kind of started deteriorating. And community members actually came together and shared how important preserving this mill was. So they spent 10 plus years working on restoring the mill, getting the pieces back to tip-top shape on what they would have looked like originally before they were used. The other part that they look so nice is that we run the mill once a year, but we do a dry run. So we don't run any grain through it. So that also helps kind of keeping it in that pristine condition.
Oh, okay. Why do you only run the mill once a year instead of more often?
Yeah, so one is just like the electricity running the mill and the power it takes. But it's also the big part of it is that it's an older building. So when those machines are moving, the building moves as well. So the floors move. So it can be a little harsh on the building.
Okay.
And so if it's continually running, that means more higher maintenance on the building itself.
Oh, yeah, because it's coming apart at the seams, right? Wow.
And it's beautifully made craftsmanship. And so it's in really good condition. So we want to keep it that way. So we have to be relatively careful how we go about running the mill.
Now, talking about Lindsborg, I've seen pictures of Lindsborg on the internet, and everybody is having festivals, and it's just a great place to be. There's Dala horses all over the place, and they also have buildings painted in the Swedish tourist style, let's say. Would you disagree with that characterization?
No, that's a good way to describe it. So it's usually tends to be more vibrant colors that Lindsborg really aims to have in their town.
Okay. Can you share some captivating stories from your area's past that truly highlight its character?
So one powerful story is actually related to the mill. There was a fire at the roller mill in 1897. So more specifically on October 14th, 1897, if anyone had looked up, you would have seen flames coming out of the third floor. This was particularly worrisome because the mill was surrounded by dry cornfields
Uh-oh.
and they were starting to catch on fire, and the wind was coming out of the south. Had it spread, it could have wiped out the entire town of Lindsborg. Instead, basically the entire downtown and all of Bethany College shut down and rushed down to fight the fire, containing it just to the mill. So during that time, the owner of the mill was Theodore Teichgraber, and having the community come together, they were able to save his home, who lived next door to the mill, as well as make sure the fire didn't spread into town. So it was just kind of like a sign that the community coming together and helping one another and working together.
Yeah, and it looks from the pictures like they still do it today in a big way because the whole town's sort of behind celebration of your heritage, right?
Yes. So that's the one wonderful thing about Lindsborg is it's very community based. Just coming together as a community, also trying to share our love of Lindsborg with others as well.
Now, how did the town come to be? What pivotal moments in its history stand out to you?
Yeah. So in the 1850s and 1860s, many people in Sweden began to consider immigrating to America. So the Swedes were facing various struggles in Sweden, such as population growth, little social mobility, a desire for religious freedom, and just harsh living conditions. There were two land companies that were pivotal for the Swedes to settle in Kansas. There was the Galesburg Company and the First Swedish Land Company of Chicago. Kind of one of the major reasons that they chose to come to Kansas was the cost of land.
Ah, okay.
So after kind of coming to this area and establishing Lindsborg, there was various reasons why Lindsborg flourished, but two big factors were actually based on the arts and education of the area.
Hmm.
So, for example, one important event that we still have today is the Messiah Music Festival. The Messiah is an oratorio composed by George Frederick Handel in 1741,
Oh, yeah, I know that
and it
one.
debuted. Yeah, so it debuted in Dublin, Ireland in 1742. So some historical figures actually listened to this performance in the late 1800s, and they decided to bring this to Lindsborg. And so today, now we have what we call our Messiah Festival. That includes the Handel's Messiah and Bach's masterpiece, The Passion According to St. Matthew. So, like, just that's one example of how like music has really been important to Lindsborg. We're also very big on like the arts, on all sides of the arts. The other big one was Bethany College, that was established in the late 1880s. And that's still a college we have today, and that really pushes for education and also education in the arts as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you have the Swedish Heritage Museum there. Are you guys still collecting artifacts?
Yes, yes. So we are always collecting artifacts. We look into like the history behind it. We can't sadly accept everything. You know, there's always storage space that we have to consider and
Right.
what we can actually handle in capacity. But we do really look into like what's the story of these objects? Does it really truly explain and represent Lindsborg and Smoky Valley history? So we actually had a recent donation of a medical box that says Lindsborg on the side. We're still researching the exact history of it, but we accepted that donation because it's a critical piece of history and we don't have much on that. So it's something that we're kind of looking into, making sure we have the correct information for it.
Yeah, very cool. So, what unique aspects of the area your organization serves present both challenges and opportunities for preservation?
Yeah. So, we have thousands of artifacts ranging from actual objects, photographs, and archival documents. But really, the biggest challenge is that we have multiple historic buildings. that are significant to our museum and to local history. So we have 10 buildings, 2 of which are on the National Registry of Historic Sites, which is an amazing thing to have because it provides visitors with a more interactive opportunity to explore Lindsborg and the Smoky Valley's past. But historic buildings, it does come at a cost. We have to be able to preserve them. We have to maintain them. Sometimes they need upgrades. And as a nonprofit, we depend highly on one-time donations, grants, and memberships to not only keep the lights on, but also provide those critical repairs on our buildings.
Yeah, because you have winter there and potential tornadoes and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot to maintain those buildings, right?
It does. It does. And just having so many of them, I mean, it's wonderful that we have it, but we want to make sure each one is taken care of to the best of our abilities. But it takes money.
Now, when the town Lindsborg has their annual festivals, you have 15 acres there. Do they have their festivals on your property?
So sometimes, yes. Now, one event that is consistent every year is the Midsummer's event. So part of it is downtown, but then there's also part of it that is at Heritage Square, which is what we call the buildings across our street. So during Midsummer's, they have a cube tournament. Then that's an all-day event. It's a Scandinavian game. So I'm not quite familiar with it yet. I haven't actually played the game yet.
Is it like checkers or something?
You're actually, so you have like blocks put up on the ground and there's like 2 teams on both sides and you're knocking over blocks in a certain like order.
Oh.
And so like you're tossing like a ball or something. Like I said, I haven't actually fully witnessed the game. So this will be my first year to actually check it out.
Go get them.
But that's kind of like the very, very basic that I understand.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I've never heard of it. Cube, huh? How do you spell that?
Yeah, Cube. Kubb.
Kubb?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I'll look it up. Thanks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, please definitely do. And then at the end of the day, around in the evening time, they have their dance around the maypole. So our Swedish dancers in town come out and do that performance, and people get to visit and watch them as they do it.
They used to do that. Wasn't that May Day that they dance around the maypole?
Yeah, that's kind of another connection right there. So it's similar to that, yeah.
Yeah, we used to do that when I was a kid. Back when I grew up in Illinois, there used to be dancing around the maypole on May 1st. Now, can you reveal some lesser known yet fascinating stories about Lindsborg that your organization highlights?
Ooh, I mean, there's always a lot to choose from. It's maybe not more of a fascinating story, but more of a lesser known fact that relates actually to our mill, but we just get it often. Many people, when they come in, they think it was powered by the stereotypical water wheel, which would have had that horizontal axle with either an undershot of water running underneath the wheel or an overshot, which would be water flowing over the top of a wheel. But actually, the mill was originally powered by water turbines with a vertical oriented axle. And this is kind of technical, but falling water would flow down into the turbines, then shoot out the bottom at an angle at a high velocity, causing the turbines to spin. With the river's flow proving too unreliable, the mill added the option for steam power, which on at least one occasion had exploded. And then eventually they just transitioned to a fully electric power in the 1930s. So there's some injuries that occurred when there was an explosion, but then, like they said, they kind of transitioned to that fully electric power in the 1930s.
Yeah, it just struck me how much we take for granted, that, you go to the grocery store and there's just flour in bags there, you don't think, well, somebody's got to grow it and then take it and mill it and all that stuff. Wow. Yeah, no, it's a process. And that's why it's important sharing that history of like agriculture and why it was so important back then and why it's still incredibly important today. Yeah. What inspired the founding of your museum and what early experiences shaped its journey? Yeah, so when the mill closed down officially in 1955, the Runebeck brothers, who were the owners of it at that time, gifted the museum to the McPherson Fish and Wildlife Department. And then in 1962, it was actually then given to McPherson County, and the grounds were used to open a McPherson County Historical Museum. So as it was the McPherson County Historical Museum,
mill actually sat for a while, slowly deteriorating. But then in 1971, a Lindsborg resident, Malcolm Esping, recognized that the roller mill was the only remaining water-powered mill in Kansas that contained its original machinery. So Esping created a Lindsborg committee who entered the mill in the National Registry of Historic Places. And the restoration of the mill began in 1972 and ended on March 31st, 1981. So it was a very long process. So during that whole restoration of the mill, multiple historic buildings were being relocated to the museum complex. So those buildings include the West Kentuck one-room schoolhouse, which was relocated in 1965. You have the Swedish Pavilion and the Academy building, which were on Bethany College campus, that were relocated in 1969. And then we also had other buildings that were relocated. So the Lindsborg Union Pacific Depot, a gold prospector shop, the Erickson Brothers Workshop, the first McPherson County Courthouse, a homestead log cabin, and even a number 735 Santa Fe steam engine.
Wow.
So during that time, many things were kind of changing throughout that museum complex. But then the biggest change happened in 2021. The McPherson County decided to let go of the museum complex and gave the city of Lindsborg about 6 months to preserve that museum. So within those 6 months, the community came together and turned the museum into a 501c3 nonprofit.
Wow. Big changes.
Yeah, so it's undergone a lot of changes over the years.
Wow. You guys got so much to see and do on that property. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the organization. The website is oldmillmuseum.org. Their address is 120 East Mill Street, Lindsborg, Kansas, 67456. You can phone them at 785-227-3595. Their email is oldmillmuseum@gmail.com. Their Facebook is at Old Mill Museum Lindsborg. That's LINDSBORG. Their YouTube and Instagram is at Lindsborg Mill. Admission is free for ages 0 through 5, $5 for students of any age, and $10 for general admission. Additional free will donations are always helpful and gratefully accepted. Aubrey, how does your organization serve the community, and what are its primary goals?
Yeah, so our primary goals are preserving the cultural legacy of the Smoky Valley area from past to present. It's also to promote Lindsborg's passion for preserving and sharing its Swedish heritage and educating the public with diverse historical, cultural perspectives of the world. So to really fulfill these goals as a museum, part of that is preserving artifacts related to Lindsborg in the Smoky Valley. It also includes exhibits, archival research, and Swedish genealogy, which is something that we're big on at our museum.
Okay.
We also just participate in a lot of Swedish events in Lindsborg, such as Midsummers. And we also participate in other events throughout the year. So Lindsborg is incredible, and they have multiple events almost consistently throughout the year. So we do our best to make sure we're participating in some way. And then we also have two of our larger events, which would be Mill Fest, where we run the mill on the first Saturday of May and provide guided tours as it is running. And we also have our Heritage Christmas, which is on the same day as the St. Lucia's Festival.
Holy cow, you got a lot going on all year.
Oh, yes.
Now, could you share your personal journey and how it led you to your current role in the organization?
Yeah, of course. So my journey kind of had a lot of changes, as most people's do, but it really started in my 6th grade world history class. So I just really fell in love learning about cultures around the world, the mythology, their history, and how they came together. And then as I kind of went into high school, I heard about anthropology, which includes 4 different subfields, and it was just fascinating to me. And I actually started out in focusing more on biological anthropology. So when I went to Wichita State University, I earned a bachelor's and master's in anthropology, but most of my electives were in biological anthropology and osteology, which is the study of human bones.
I'm so glad you explained that osteology is the study of human bones. I would have never guessed.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of ologies out there.
All right.
But yeah, so I actually focused on osteology a lot when I was going to school. But I was also still interested in that preservation of our history. So I also have a museum study certificate from Wichita State University. So I just had a lot of interest back then, and I still do have the same interest. So as I was earning my master's degree, I was hired as the director and curator of the City of Marion Historical Museum.
Okay.
And so I worked there for 4 years, and then I eventually came to where I am at now at the Lindsborg Old Mill Museum.
On your days off, are you out trying to dig up things around the property, like to study old bones?
No, I don't really do the digging part, but I will admit, if I come across animal bones, I sometimes collect them.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Wow, that's quite a
Well,
story. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. What exciting events or exhibits should the community keep an eye out for at your organization?
for events, we have a lot of events actually that happen throughout the year that we host ourselves. So one of them is Millfest. So Millfest is the first Friday and Saturday of May, and it's kind of what we consider our biggest fundraiser of the year. So Friday is more specifically called Millfest for Kids. So on that day, schools from different counties visit to learn from various demonstrators. So demonstrations can range from goats, wood carving, pioneer toys, drawing, weaving, fossils, and many more topics. And then on Saturday, our event is by donation, and visitors can enjoy live music, food vendors, and just other vendors selling various items. In addition, though, we also run the mill. So visitors 13 and older can pay $10 to receive a guided tour of the mill as it is running. Another big event is our Heritage Christmas, which is the second Saturday of December. This is held the same day as St. Lucia's celebration in Lindsborg. So our Heritage Christmas is a donation-based event where people can come and to listen to music, meet Santa, decorate cookies, and tons of other activities. So those are our two main big events, but we've introduced kind of a couple other new ones in the past year.
Okay.
So in October of last year, we partnered up with Broadway RFD, which is a theater group in Lindsborg, and we brought back the Legend of Sleepy Hollow play.
Ooh.
So the event was held for 3 days leading up to Halloween and was performed in Heritage Square. And we have decided to make this event to be every even year. So this is to offset Hillings Fest, which is on the odd year.
Okay.
So, and then another event is Magic at the Mill, where we partnered up with Spellbot Games and Comics store down in downtown Lindsborg, and we held a Magic the Gathering competition at the museum. And we're already in the plans of making this an annual event as well.
Fantastic. You got a lot going on. Oh.
Yeah, and those are just our events, like big events. We also have a few other things. We also have a genealogist who helps people with Swedish genealogy research.
Cool.
And part of that is actually hosting online workshops over Zoom. So it's just some of them can be an all-day workshop with various professionals that we have partnered with in the US, but also in Sweden, who can walk people through on how to really trace back their Swedish roots. And so information on that can always be found on our website.
Fantastic. Now, I understand you have a campground there on the property as well. If I'm a tourist in the United States or I'm retired and I jump in my RV with my wife to see the country, I can come to Lindsborg. I can go to your campground and stay for however long I want. And there's a fee, right?
Yes, yeah. So our campgrounds, some might call it more rustic campgrounds. So we don't actually have water access out there.
Okay.
So it kind of limits the stay of how long people can really stay. But we get a lot of comments on like how beautiful it is out there because it's more nature, connecting with the nature.
Right.
And it's right next to the Smoky Valley River too. People can just show up and pick either you have one side of the campgrounds where it's for electric and the other side is just for camping. And you can pay either online through PayPal or Venmo, or you can also stop by the museum during working hours and pay in person.
Oh, very cool. And I can then camp and I can attend the festivals and I can attend the events and I can, go to the museum and see the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always kind of like, we don't typically take reservations. It's kind of a come and go campgrounds,
Okay.
But for any of the big events happening in Lindsborg, we do take reservations for those.
How big is the campground?
So it has approximately, if I remember correctly, 16 electric outlets.
Okay.
It's a mixture of 30 amp and 50 amp, but it's a pretty good size where you still have some personal space. It's definitely at least secluded, though, from like the roads in Lindsborg. So you're not having people constantly passing by. So it's going to be quiet out there.
It just sounds marvelous. Just marvelous. In the summertime, it'd just be beautiful.
Oh, yes, it really is.
Now, do you have any amusing or interesting anecdotes from your organization's past that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So one kind of fun story actually occurred during the restoration process of the mill. So when the mill closed in 1955, the structure was just falling apart. There were broken windows, the leather belts were starting to rot. And when Malcolm Esping, who was a local silversmith, saw the value of the mill and kind of pushed to have it restored, there was originally a lot of skepticism and confusion among some in the community. I'm like, why would we save a factory in the industrial side of town? It just wasn't quite, they didn't think of it in a different light.
Right.
And you could kind of provide the example that it'd be like someone today making an effort to save an Amazon warehouse. But he was able to get enough momentum behind his vision to make it happen. So that process started in the 1960s when the grounds were donated to the McPherson County. And so during that time, though, Malcolm led that effort and he just continually saw the value in it. But he was not a miller. And so he got a few things off when he was trying to, describing what was going on in the mill, like putting up signage, even though he did his best. And one of those accidental labeling was the word break. So he had it in there as BRAKE.
All right.
And during this time, George Tesseract, a Quaker Oats miller in St. Joseph, Missouri, came for a visit and he saw this misspelling and was like upset about it. And he went up to Malcolm and asked, and this is all I'm paraphrasing, but, well, who does your spelling around here? And Malcolm responded, I suppose that would be me. And George was like, well, you spelled the breaks wrong. It's BREAK, not BRAKE.
Okay.
And Malcolm responded with, well, if you know so much, why don't you come here and work on it? And George was like, I think I will. So it was a little bit of kind of, I guess you could say, semi-bullying each other into making each other better and doing a good thing and helping restore the mill and properly displaying that information. So George was true to his word, and after his retirement, he served as the museum's technical advisor. So that was kind of one little fun story that happened during the mill restoration. Another important figure during that restoration was Mary Borg, and she was amazing at organizing the work and the people, and in her quiet, deliberate way, made sure that it wasn't just a bunch of guys with vision, but that the necessary work to achieve the ideas actually happened. So kind of a driving force behind the scenes.
Very cool. Very cool. So many important historical figures led to the preservation of the old mill. And it's just a great thing for the area and the town of Lindsborg.
Yes, it is. And having those very active community members has been incredibly important and wonderful to have for the museum.
Can you recount any particularly memorable visitor experiences or feedback?
Oh, we get a lot of those comments, or like I have Swedish ancestors, or my sometimes they went to Minnesota or Illinois or different areas, but there's a couple that be like, oh, my great grandfather was from Lindsborg. So they always there's some sort of connection, like whether it's kind of further back in their ancestry or maybe a little bit more recent, but it's just when they come to the museum, they don't always realize how many buildings there are to look at, how much there is to learn, and how it's connected to Lindsborg and that Swedish heritage.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. Now, you have the Swedish Heritage Museum. What kinds of exhibits can visitors currently explore at your facility?
Yes, of course. So, of course, we have all our historic buildings, but on top of that, so we are actually having a Swedish immigration exhibit installed the end of May. So that one is going to be a new exhibit. We also have an audio tour for the mill and a virtual video tour of the mill running online for people to look at.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So those are kind of some of the bigger ones. All of our buildings have information on the inside, kind of talking about those buildings as well. So there's a lot to see when you come to the museum.
So, folks, even if you can't go to Lindsborg and you can't go to the museum yourself physically, you can still support them. You can still support their efforts to preserve history and create such a wonderful institution and environment for Lindsborg and the surrounding communities. And you can go to the audio tour and take a video tour and see everything there. Aubrey, I think it's time for a break for a few minutes.
All right, we'll see you back here after the break.
Listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages about visiting and joining the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum as a member.
At the heart of Lindsborg, Kansas, fondly known as Little Sweden, stands a living testament to heritage and history, the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum. More than just a historic mill, this landmark has been grinding out more than grain for over a century. It's built a legacy of community, culture, and connection, one generation at a time.
And now the museum invites you to be part of that story. Visit, become a member, and help preserve Swedish traditions for generations to come. As a member, you'll enjoy exclusive perks, free admission to the museum, invitations to members-only events and exhibit openings, a subscription to the museum newsletter, 10% off in the gift shop, half off genealogy research assistance, and discounted rates on workshops and programs.
Whether you're a history enthusiast, an art lover, or simply looking for a meaningful family outing, the Old Mill Museum has something for everyone. Set across 15 acres of historic grounds, the museum features an 1869 homestead log cabin, the first public school in Lindsborg, McPherson County's first courthouse, the Union Pacific Depot, and a Santa Fe steam engine. Even the original workshop of the Erickson brothers, pioneers of the rotary dial telephone. Plus, enjoy picnic areas and affordable campgrounds where the past becomes your playground.
Your membership helps support vibrant community events, restoration projects, educational programs, and a kids' corner packed with games and coloring fun. And don't miss the gift shop, featuring books, Swedish foods, souvenirs, and exclusive archived workshop videos, with a special focus on Kansas makers. Visit it online at www.oldmillmuseum.org.
And history buffs, take note. On the museum grounds stands a rare gem, the Swedish Pavilion, designed by renowned architect Ferdinand Boberg. One of only 2 surviving international buildings from the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, this stunning structure has been a classroom, an art studio, and now, a piece of living history. Come see it for yourself. Come experience it all.
Ready to step inside history? Visit www.oldmillmuseum.org. Call 785-227-3595 or email oldmillmuseum@gmail.com. Visit or become a member today and help preserve our past for the future. The Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum, where heritage is more than history, it's home.
Till alla Sverige som lyssnar på det här avsnittet. Om ni reser till USA från Sverige, se till att besöka Lindsborg, Kansas, som är känt som Amerikas lilla Sverige. Missa inte Lindsborgs gamla kvarn och Swedish Heritage Museum. Hem till den vackert bevarade svenska paviljongen från 1904 från världsutställningen i S04E020. Denna historiska byggnad besöktes senare av Sveriges kung själv. Museikomplexet har också så mycket mer, som campingplatser och Heritage Square. Vilket gör det till ett perfekt stopp för både historieälskare och familjer. Besök deras webbplats på oldmillmuseum.org.
I am General Matto Vandu Maximanus, from the planet you refer to as BD 114672C. I am the legate of the second AB Picturus B region, governor of the approaches to NU Octantis AB, interplanetary consul, commander of the legions of AB Picturus A, 91 Aquari B, Mu Leones B, and Gamma Librae B, and I listen to Preservation Oaks on Microstream Radio.
You're listening to Preservation Oaks, where new episodes are created for you every 2 weeks. That's 26 episodes per season. Let me see, that's like 182 in dog episodes. Right?
9 out of 10 curators agree. Preservation Oaks is the best podcast on the internet.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Sean, and we're here today with the one and only Aubrey Wheeler from the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum located in Lindsborg, Kansas. Let's pick up where we left off. Welcome back, Aubrey.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back with you and the listeners.
Now, Aubrey, how often do your exhibits change? And what's the process for curating new ones? Can you describe the museum's collections, management policies, and procedures, and how it cares for its artifacts?
Yes, of course. So right now we're kind of actually in the progress of trying to slowly update exhibits. So one of the challenges of having multiple historic buildings, it means we have a lot of exhibits to change. And the exhibit process is something that we don't want to rush. We want to make sure it's done well. And it's also dependent on staffing. And so there's 3 of us, so that means we are also in charge of doing all those exhibit changes. So it takes a little longer than we would like sometimes. But we have a mini exhibit that we try to rotate out every year. So we are currently about to have a new mini exhibit on display in the next couple weeks,
Cool.
plus our new Swedish immigration exhibit at the end of the month. We are also in the process of looking for funding to create a rotating exhibit hall so that we can actually have a space specifically built for those rotating exhibits so we can have that information rotating throughout more often.
Very cool. So this would be an addition onto the existing museum?
No, so it would be changing up the floor plan of a current exhibit hall that we have right now.
Okay.
So kind of just changing it up a little bit and getting it set up so that it could actually house more rotating exhibit equipment. So that's kind of like the exhibits and the changes we're working on currently, and kind of like the process for curating a new one. It truly does take time because you want to make sure the information is accurate, that it's interesting to the public, related to our museum mission, and just make sure like the graphics and the designing is done well. So it is definitely a process just to make sure it looks good and really reaches out to visitors. So it just takes time. So that's always the biggest thing.
Now, do you have roles like exhibit designer or curator or archivist or registrar or any of that?
Yeah. So as you will find with a lot of smaller museums and historical organizations, that's where the struggle comes in, is that staffing of multiple positions.
Right.
So our museum has me as the executive director. We have our marketing director, and then we have a part-time collections manager. So that means that the three of us come together and work on exhibit outside of all of our other duties. And that's one reason sometimes it takes us a little bit, longer than maybe we'd like to get new exhibits up.
Right.
Because there's only three of us to do it.
Makes sense. Now, you have volunteers, though, right, that have skills?
Yes. So we have multiple volunteers, and we're always looking for more. Like, for example, one of our volunteers, we have a collections committee. So that committee helps with the collection management side of things and also ties into the exhibit designing. And then kind of more of the hands-on stuff, we have what we call the handyman crew. So they also help with repairs of our buildings, just some of the heavy work.
Right.
That might go into maybe exhibit designing. So they help a lot for that. So those are some of their two bigger volunteer committees that really help. But we're always trying to working on expanding our volunteers so that we have some that are experts in education side of things and just community outreach and things like that.
Well, I tell you, if I were living anywhere in the area and I were in a college around the area or any kind of program in high school that related to history and I loved history, or I was a corporate sponsor, I would be down there in a heartbeat just to work in that pavilion and, put a cafe in that pavilion and make it so beautiful. It would just be astounding.
Yes. And we're currently on the pavilion side of things. We're going to be conducting like a market feasibility research to see about if renting out that pavilion as a venue would be an option.
Oh, I didn't realize you didn't do that. Oh, that's cool.
Well, we kind of do, but the issue right now is the pavilion does not have AC. There are no bathrooms in the pavilion. There's bathrooms on that side of the street, but not in the pavilion. So it's really difficult to rent it out. And then you also have to add on to the aspect of the historic building. So there's other things that you have to consider, but we're looking into whether it's a possible thing that we can do down the road. And it would take a little bit of adjustments.
In there too, right?
Yeah, there's no kitchen. So we're kind of looking into how can we make sure the building is staying historically accurate, but also creating maybe like a separate wing or a building behind it that would have the bathrooms, the kitchens and whatnot. Oh, wow. Also adding the AC.
I'd put a cafe in there and have pastries and stuff. Oh, that'd be great. Really, Swedish pastries too. Wow. Yeah. And you know how the Swedes love their pastries.
They love their pastries, but they love their coffee even more.
Oh, yeah, true. That is true. Absolutely. Oh, boy, your life is complicated at times, huh?
Oh, yes. There's always a lot going on at once, and it's exciting, but, it's also a lot. But my team works well together, and the community always comes together when we need their help. So it's a good area to be in.
Fantastic. Now, what recent restoration or conservation projects have been undertaken?
Oh boy, this is going to be a little long one. So back in 2023, we actually received a Sprint grant for about $250,000. So with that grant, we have made significant updates and repairs just through that grant alone. So, for example, the Swedish Pavilion. So repairs for that have been a new front porch renovation, new exterior paint, historically accurate windows. We are currently working on structural repairs of the building, and an extension to that, also raising funds for a new roof.
Oh, it needs a roof. Oh, that's very important. Oh.
Yeah, and we're actually trying to make sure, because originally the Swedish Pavilion had clay tile barrel roofing, and which in Kansas that doesn't quite work because of the weather to have clay tile. And so we're looking at roofing material that is durable but similar to that same roofing style. So we're trying to make sure it's that historical accuracy, but something that can still handle the Kansas weather. So that, will increase the price of our roof because it's a specific kind of look and material.
Yeah, it's more custom, right?
To an extent. It's not maybe necessarily custom to the building, but it's definitely a more specific look. It's just not your usual roofing material that you would maybe typically go for.
Right. I didn't realize you needed a new roof. You need donations.
Oh, like all of our buildings, I mean, they're old buildings. They're always going to need some love. But the roof is, it's at least 20 plus years old, and it's asphalt roofing. So it's not historically accurate. There are leakages. It's something that we are definitely really trying to get done sooner than later, but it'll hold for a little longer. So it gives us time to raise those funds.
Yeah, cool. Good luck on that. Good luck.
Thank you. But some other updates that we have had on our other building also include our Lindsborg Union Pacific Train Depot. So that one, we have put new exterior paint on, repaired the ADA ramp, and our current project is repairing the entrance of the floor. So when you first walk in. And then we also have our set of buildings that we call Heritage Center. So it's not a historic building, but rather it has like a recreation of a livery stable, a miller shop, a bank, and some agriculture equipment. But we put a new north exterior wall and repainted it. And then we also have a 1908 Dempster number 9 windmill that we just fully restored and repainted about a month to 2 months ago. And then we also had painting done on our one-room schoolhouse and put on a new roof. And then, see, the list keeps going.
Yeah.
The main museum building, which is where visitors first enter, we repaired the porch posts and the supports. We put on new guttering, new security systems and cameras, a new walkway to the old mill, and better ADA accessible sidewalk up to the main building, new landscaping. We have a new exhibit coming in. And we also installed a doll horse out front.
Cool.
And yeah. And then we also made some repairs related to the mill. So we have the old mill powerhouse, which is kind of where all that power comes from. That has a new roof on it, new parapet wall masonry repairs, exterior walls, and tuck pointing repair. And then we also made some renovations to our actual roller mill. So that includes some tuck pointing repair, repainting the signs, new parapet caps, new guttering, new courtyard security fence that also serves as like a public art because it's custom metalwork, and parking lot grading for drainage.
Wow. You guys have been
And that's just
busy.
like the major stuff. We always have our handyman crew who are doing other maintenance and repairs during their volunteer hours as well.
I bet it's beautiful there. Wow.
It is. And we're always trying to maintain it and make it better.
Now, every museum has sort of the must-see exhibit, right? That you have to see this if you come here. What's your must-see exhibit or artifact in your collection?
Yeah. So, we have hundreds of interesting artifacts, but what really makes our museum special is our buildings. I mean, those are the must-see part of our museum. And it kind of depends on what a person is interested in. So sometimes it's the roller mill. People just come to see that and just seeing the artwork, the beauty of it, or the Swedish pavilion. There's people, that visitors that come in and they're coming in just to look at the pavilion. That was like the biggest reason why they stopped by. So it's truly the buildings that really make our museum a must-see place.
I was interviewing a Ukrainian museum near Detroit, Michigan, and it turned out that there was a number of different Ukrainian museums all across our country, and they were in contact with each other, and they helped each other preserve the culture and so on and so forth. Is it that way for Swedish museums such as yours?
So we are currently kind of working on broadening our connections with other Swedish museums. So we are not quite there yet, but we're really hoping to kind of really start building those connections more. But museums in general tend to really stay well connected, whether that's just state by state or just across the U.S. But our goal is really to start building those connections with other Scandinavian museums.
Gosh, I hope you do. That'd be great. Plus, you could exchange artifacts and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's always a big one.
Yeah, cool. And do you have connections back to Sweden?
We don't have a connection in regards to like a Swedish museum, but we do work closely with Archive Digital, which is a genealogy research company out of Sweden. So they help a lot with our workshops and they're presenters for our Swedish genealogy workshops.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Now, how is your organization approaching the digitization of its documents and photographs for future accessibility?
Yes, so we have made great strides in the digitization of our archival documents. So we currently have 4 grant-funded projects related to that digitization of documents and photographs. So one of the projects is geared towards digitizing and uploading our historic photographs to our museum's Flickr page. So there are currently over 8,000 photographs on our page for the public to view. We also have been using programs, videos, photographs, and correspondences dating back to Lindsborg's first Hillingsfest festival starting in 1941. So that's just a major festival that is very particular to Lindsborg that we celebrate every odd year. Another project is in partnership with the Smoky Valley Historical Association, and we have been digitizing old media tapes and films of Lindsborg's Hillingsfest, oral histories from the 1980s and early 2000s, and World War II veteran interviews that were conducted by local high school students. And then one of our more recent projects is an in-depth research on a famous late 1800s and early 1900s photographer in Lindsborg named B.G. Grondel. So the project is looking into Grondel's different logos and using those logos to date photographs.
You know, that work is so important, and it sounds like you're well on the way to preserving those very, very valuable film and ephemera photographs, that kind of thing. That's great to hear.
Yes. No, it's been very important for us to get those digitized and available to the public.
Aubrey, can you provide an overview of the size and scope of your collection? Is it like millions of artifacts or smaller than that?
I wouldn't go maybe millions, but I would definitely say there are thousands. Those artifacts can range from archival documents, tapes, photographs, historical artifacts that are just related to Lindsborg and the Smoky Valley. But we also have fossils and geological specimens that were donated from the former Bethany College Museum.
Cool.
So we are currently in the process of going through those right now.
Now, those were collected in the area, dug up in the area, that kind of thing?
Some were from all over the states, even. So, yeah, we're kind of trying to trace back those records and kind of figure out what we have and where it came from.
That's a full-time job in itself, just going through and taking care of all your artifacts. I imagine your artifact storage is, up to professional standards since you're a museum, that kind of thing. It's just a full-time job.
Yeah, so we're always careful in making sure, temperature controlled, humidity controlled, do our best on lighting, pest control. With smaller museums, and I say smaller, technically we have a lot of buildings, but we are still technically a small museum, and we're housed in an older building. You have to, in some capacity, you have to work with what you have.
Right.
So having a newer building is great because you can have it modified to what exactly you need to be a museum. But when you're using an older building that wasn't adjusted to be a museum, it takes a little bit of thinking and reworking to do what you can to create an environment that will help preserve your collection.
Yeah. And the people of Lindsborg in the area really need to know that this stuff doesn't happen by magic. It happens by donations, and it happens by careful planning and professionals such as yourself making sure that it happens properly.
Yes, because it takes a lot of documentation and just recording, knowing where everything is at and the condition it is in.
Absolutely. Now, what tools or software do you use to manage and catalog your collection?
Yeah, so the one software program that we use is Past Perfect.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different catalog systems out there that can vary based on a museum's need, but the one that we use is definitely Past Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, lots of people use it. Aubrey, I want to turn our attention to funding and support. How is your organization funded, and what are your financial goals for the current year?
There are different ways that our organization is funded. So one is just donations from the public. That's always a very big one. Another is we apply to grants and charitable trust. We also have a causes portal. And then we do receive some public funding from the city, and the McPherson County rents out an archival space. So we do get some funding from that. We are looking into other aspects though too. So we're looking into corporate funding as well as creating a rental space.
Oh,
So those are
cool.
kind of like the different, there's also memberships too, of course. So that's a big one. But those are kind of our major funding avenues that we have.
Well, you were telling me earlier that you guys have developed a 5-year plan, and I thought, well, wait, they're way ahead of the curve because a lot of organizations, smaller organizations, don't have a 5-year plan. And specifically when you're talking about corporate funding, corporate support in the area, you want to show them that 5-year plan. So it's great that you've done that.
Yeah, and we always make that public. So that is actually on our website too. So anyone can kind of view our strategic plan for the 2025 to 2030 and just kind of see what our goals are for the next 5 years.
Fantastic. Where do they find that on your website?
So when you go to the oldmillmuseum.org, and when you get to that front page, you can go under news and it will be underneath that drop box.
Okay, cool. Just fantastic. Well, I wish you much luck in attracting corporate sponsorships. It'll really help you, especially with the size of everything you have to take care of.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
What fundraising activities or opportunities are available to support your organization's mission? Now, you've mentioned the events, and so we got that, but do you do anything like online shopping or certificates or any of that stuff?
Yeah. So we do have online shopping. So our gift shop products can be found through our website. We also have an option for people to do one-time donations or memberships either on our website or in person, or you could also mail. We do also have certificates that go towards our genealogy workshops. So just kind of certain times of the year, we'll have those certain certificates pop up. And a big one is like for members that they get discounts for our genealogy workshops if they sign up to be a member.
Okay.
We also have something pretty big this past 2 years, which is our tax credit grant. So that's where Kansas taxpayers can donate money towards our Swedish pavilion repairs and receive a 70% return for the next year's taxes.
Ooh, that's cool.
So yeah, like that money we just raised actually $151,000 through that tax credit grant to do the structural repairs for our Swedish pavilion. So we have some funding, some grant money left from that, and that money will now go towards a new roof for our Swedish pavilion.
Very cool. Thank you, Kansas legislature. That's great.
Yes.
Wow, that's a good deal there. Now, you've mentioned membership a couple of times. How does membership contribute to your organization, and what options are available for joining?
Yeah, so memberships really helps one with the financial side of things, but it also helps us just with connecting with people who have interest in history, Swedish heritage, and agriculture, and just getting to know them and learning what they know. But we have our membership levels. So you have an individual, which is $40, family is at $60, and business at $125. But we then break that down kind of what we call donation levels. So from that $40 to $199, we have what we call a friend of the museum. So that includes free admission to the museum for that person, their family, or employees. You get our newsletter, invitations to special events and openings, 10% discount in our gift shop, 50% discount on research assistance, discounted rates on our genealogy workshops. And then we also have our next level up, which is $200 to $499, which is what we call supporter. So you get what I just mentioned, but you also receive the museum's annual report, invitation to our donors reception, a thank you letter, and recognition on our website. The next level up is our benefactor, which is $500 to $4,999. So that includes all that I have mentioned. Then it also adds in one free guided tour, which is up to 15 people during the calendar year of that donation, and recognition of our biannual newsletter. And then the next level is our sustainer. So that is the $5,000 to $19,999,000. So you get everything that I mentioned above, as well as recognition in our annual report and 2 guest passes. And then last of all, we have our ambassador. So that is $20,000 and higher. So includes everything as I mentioned before, but also recognition in the museum's publications and any just online events, sponsors, anything like that, as well as 4 guest passes.
Wow. I love the ranges
It's a lot.
that you have. I really like that. A lot of people say, oh, a membership is $25 or $250, and that's the price. But you've done something different. You've got a range that they can contribute to being a member every year. And I like that a lot. That's a good approach. Yep.
Thank you.
Hey, Aubrey, why don't we take a break for a few minutes? What do you think?
All right, let's take a step back and come back refreshed.
Listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages about becoming a corporate sponsor or big dollar donor to the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum. They can really use the help, and you know it's going to a very worthwhile cause.
In the heart of Kansas, where prairie winds whisper through wheat fields, stands a remarkable institution preserving one of America's most distinctive immigrant legacies, the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum, located at 120 East Mill Street in Lindsborg, Kansas. Set in the original 1898 Smoky Valley Roller Mill, listed on the National Register of Historic Places, the museum offers a deep look into the lives and traditions of the Swedish immigrants who founded Lindsborg in the 19th century.
Corporate sponsors and visionary donors play a vital role in protecting this heritage.
Inside the museum, guests explore hundreds of historic artifacts, from hand-woven Swedish textiles to traditional furniture decorated with Swedish folk art. The fully restored mill, one of the few of its kind still operational, demonstrates the craftsmanship and innovation that defined the Smoky Valley's early settlers.
Throughout the year, the museum hosts immersive events like the Midsummer Festival, Heritage Christmas, and school programs that connect visitors with the rich customs, language, and community spirit of Swedish America. By supporting the museum, your company and donations help ensure that these stories and traditions are passed to future generations through education, preservation, and celebration. To learn more about sponsorship opportunities, visit oldmillmuseum.org, follow at Lindsborg Mill on Instagram and YouTube, or call 785-227-3595.
Questions? Email oldmillmuseum@gmail.com. For a sneak peek, follow at Old Mill Museum, Lindsborg on Facebook, and subscribe to at Lindsborg Mill on YouTube and Instagram. Whether savoring traditionally ground flour from the mill shop or marveling at handcrafted heritage crafts, a visit to the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum promises memories that endure.
With a particular emphasis on local and Kansas businesses and creators, the museum gift shop offers books, souvenirs, foods, and archived genealogy workshop videos. The shop is online at www.oldmillmuseum.org.
Discover history coming to life and experience the Swedish spirit that powers our community.
The Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum, preserving the legacy of Swedish settlement on the Kansas prairie. Please donate today.
Everywhere you go, across the country trip or across the street party, you carry the fun with you when you own a Columbia stereophonic high-fidelity phonograph. There's a marvelous selection of 7 new portable models in smart new color combinations at your Columbia phonograph dealer from which you may choose. Each one is a masterpiece of design and beauty, More quality, more features, and more styling have been built into these sturdy portables than ever before. How much fun you'll have enjoying all the wonderful new sound of stereo records. Regular records take on new beauty, too, when played on handsome Columbia portables. You'll be amazed at the big console sound that is reproduced by Columbia portable stereophonic high-fidelity phonographs. You'll thrill to the excitement of Stereo One by Columbia, #1 in the wonderful world of sound. And Columbia portables are economical, too. Prices start as low as $24.95. See them and hear them at your Columbia phonograph dealer.
Hello, this is Amuli Okudili. My family and I listen to Preservation Oaks on Microstream Radio. We love Sean Thomas Radcliffe's interesting guests and learning more about our new country, America. Please support your local museum, genealogical or historical society. God bless America.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Sean Radcliffe, and we're here today with the one, the only Aubrey Wheeler from the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum, located in Lindsborg, Kansas. Let's pick up where we left off. Aubrey, I'm learning a lot. Thank you and welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back with you and the listeners.
Aubrey, how does your organization engage in community outreach and educational programs?
Yeah, so I kind of briefly mentioned them before, but so our two top ones are going to be our genealogy workshops, which are held on Zoom. We also provide the recordings of those workshops on our website for a fee, so people can kind of go back and visit them. We also have our Mill Fest for kids. So we work closely with schools in different counties to have them come down and just learn for various topics from people in our community. And so things like wood carving and fossils and whatnot. We're also looking into holding in-person seminars to cover preservation techniques for collections at home. So that's kind of one big one we're hoping to add at some point.
Cool. And you run children through the museum on a regular basis?
Yes. So when schools call us, they can ask for a guided tour of our mill. So we have multiple school groups come. We've already had like 6 already.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be so gratifying, though. I imagine those children are, in 3rd grade or something?
It kind of varies, but for the most part, it usually ranges from about 3rd to, I'd say, maybe 6th grade.
Okay. Yeah. That's a great years for educating those children. I also very much love the idea of your archive workshops on your website. Well, all the workshops you do, you video or do something through Zoom to record them. And you've got them available for a specific price, which people can purchase and watch. I think that's fantastic. A lot of websites don't have that.
Yeah, and that was a big one that we wanted to make sure that we continue to have those options for people.
Now, do you guys publish a newsletter? And if so, how does your newsletter keep the community informed about your activities and achievements?
So we publish we always publish 3 newsletters per year, sometimes 4. Those are always mailed and emailed to our members first. And then we also post our newsletter on our website, and we'll put those on our information rack in our museum.
Fantastic. Good reason to get a membership, guys. Now, do you have an annual recognition event, and what does it celebrate?
Yeah, so we actually have 2 recognition events per year. So we have our donor recognition. So that is just a time for us to thank our donors for donating towards our museum. We couldn't do it without our donors. So it's really important that they know that we are incredibly grateful for them. We also use that time to kind of give them updates of the different projects that we have been doing. And then we also have our volunteer recognition event. So also another very important event and an important group of people is just having our volunteers who come and help us in various different ways. I mean, we couldn't also do it without our volunteers. So it's really important to us that we thank them for that.
Yeah, because do your volunteers manage the maintenance of the campgrounds?
Yes, to some extent, yes. That's what kind of like our current project right now is kind of doing some small upgrades to the campground. So currently our handyman crew is repairing our campground benches.
Oh, cool.
So they help with things like that. Yeah.
I know we've talked a little bit about volunteers. What volunteer opportunities are available for community members looking to get involved?
When it comes to volunteer opportunities, we want to get to know the people who are interested. So, what are they wanting to really learn about and help with? Sometimes that's just really covering the front desk. That can also be on our handyman crew who do those maintenance and repairs. We have volunteers who do it just for big events like Millfest and Heritage Christmas. But I mean, it could really be a variety of different things. So like if someone was interested in the archival area, so they could help with maybe digitizing photographs or organizing through documents or cataloging. It could be exhibit design. Like there's tons of opportunities that can be geared towards that person's interest.
Oh, yeah, that's where I want to be. I want to be working with the artifacts so that I can see all of that wonderful stuff that's been collected through the years.
Oh, yes, yes. No, that's always the fun part, in my opinion.
Me too. Aubrey, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the organization once again. Folks, you can visit the website at oldmillmuseum.org. Their address is 120 East Mill Street, Lindsborg, Kansas, 67456. You can phone them at 785-227-3595. You can email them at oldmillmuseum@gmail.com. Facebook, you can find them at Old Mill Museum Lindsborg. That's Lindsborg. And on Flickr, you'll find them if you search for Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum. They've got thousands of photographs up there, folks. On YouTube and Instagram, you can find them at Lindsborg Mill. Admission is free for ages 0 through 5, $5 for students of any age, and $10 for general admission. Additional free will donations are always helpful and gratefully accepted. That sound good, Aubrey?
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Now, Aubrey, what features or resources can visitors explore on your organization's website?
There's different areas on our website. So you can look at our gift shop, become a member, pay for campgrounds. We can also look into our archival research fees and kind of look into how you could have help with genealogy research. You can also listen to past genealogy workshops, look at historic photographs, a virtual tour of the mill as it is running. And then there also provides links to our social media. So that would be Instagram, Facebook, Flickr, and YouTube.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I know your website is just a step above most organizations' websites. It's really good. So I encourage everybody to get out there and look at that website and help support this organization in Lindsborg, Kansas. Aubrey, in what ways does your organization uniquely contribute to the community, and why is its role so crucial?
I mean, one part is that it just encourages economic growth through tourism. We have over 7,000 visitors per year. So they are from all over the states, and we even have some from different countries. So last year we had someone from Japan, there was one from South Africa, Sweden. So it just brings people from all over to the museum. Another big part of it is just preserving local history for our future generations and just promoting that and sharing it with others.
Fantastic. Now, that 1904 pavilion, that was part of the World's Fair, and it was the Swedish pavilion, which I think means, and please correct me if I've got the wrong idea, I think it means that the country of Sweden provided that pavilion to the World's Fair. Is that true?
Yes, it is. So that was designed by the Swedish architect Ferdinand Boberg, who was very famous in Sweden for his work. And they built it and then took it apart and shipped it to St. Louis, where then it was built back up and put on display.
Right, right.
So it's seen some famous people in there. Teddy Roosevelt was said to have visited when it was at the St. Louis Fair.
Wow.
And when it was moved to the museum complex, it was actually rededicated by King Carl the Gustav, and King Carl, I guess you say the 16th Gustav, rededicated that building.
So you're saying he came to America and rededicated the building?
Yeah, so he came for a tour of America for another reason, but somehow someone I can't remember exact name, the name of the person, but somehow was able to get in contact with someone who knew King Gustav and was like, hey, we have our Swedish pavilion here. Would he like to visit or learn more about it? And he actually came and did a rededication ceremony.
I bet if you invested in a red carpet, you could get the current king of Sweden to get over here.
That's something we need to look into.
Yeah, that would be way cool. Wow. Because the King of England just came over to Canada the other day, from what I was reading, to sit in on Parliament for the first time in 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Aubrey, you've mentioned several times that your organization does genealogical consulting or research services upon request for members or for non-members. I don't know which. Can you tell us more about that?
We do provide genealogy research for anyone. So it's specifically based for Swedish genealogy and the McPherson County genealogy, but it is $30 per hour. And it also includes, we would need reimbursement for copies at 25 cents per copy and postage cost.
That's very reasonable.
Yeah. And we have a wonderful genealogist on staff who's also our collections manager. And she's been doing it for a number of years and loves doing it. So we're grateful to have her.
Now, if they're interested in taking advantage of some of this genealogical research services, how do they do that? Do they just call you?
Yeah, so they can either call us or email us. So those are usually the top two. Sometimes we just have people who happen to come in and be like, oh, do you do genealogy workshop? And they learn just by coming in. So
yeah, fantastic.
Genealogy research takes work. And when you're also looking into different countries and kind of tracing it back into different areas with a different language, it makes it a lot more complex.
Yep. Aubrey, is there any additional message or important information you'd like to share with the community or your members?
The biggest thing is, we love to have support, whether that's just coming to visit, donating, or just sharing to others about our museum. That's really important. It's just getting the word out there that we're here, just here to preserve the Swedish heritage and Lindsborg history.
Fantastic. Now, Aubrey, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. It's really been very enlightening to learn about how much of the area's history you've preserved, are protecting, and sharing with others. This conversation has truly been a pleasure, and I'm so glad we were able to connect.
Yeah, I just thank you for listening, and thank you, Sean, for reaching out to us. It was a lot of fun talking to you and just exploring the Lindsborg and our Swedish heritage and sharing that with you and your listeners.
Fantastic. Thank you. And with that, we'll end our time with our guest, Executive Director Aubrey Wheeler from the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum. Listeners, please stay tuned for my comments and wrap-up, which is coming up next. Hey, and that brings us to the close of another unforgettable journey here on Preservation Oaks. Today, we were honored to sit down with Aubrey Wheeler, Executive Director of the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum, located in Lindsborg, Kansas. If you've been listening closely, I think you'll agree. Aubrey is a sincerely dedicated, eminently qualified, intelligent, knowledgeable, and incredibly capable individual. Her passion for preserving the Smoky Valley's legacy and her deep commitment to engaging the public with history came through loud and clear in every story she told. What a gift it's been to learn from her. Aubrey painted such a vivid picture of the area's rich Swedish American heritage, the incredible craftsmanship of the historic roller mill, and the enduring spirit of a town that knows how to celebrate its past while embracing the future. Her stories about the 1897 fire that nearly wiped out Lindsborg and how the entire town banded together to fight it really encapsulate the resilient heart of this community. There were so many highlights in this episode that resonated deeply, from the tale of Malcolm Esping's vision and perseverance in restoring the old mill, to the amusing anecdote about the misspelling of break during the mill's restoration, only to lead to a retired Quaker Oats miller stepping up to become the museum's technical advisor. These were moments filled with both humor and heart. Aubrey also shared the touching story of King Carl XVI Gustav of Sweden personally rededicating the Swedish pavilion during a visit to the United States. That historic pavilion, originally designed by Ferdinand Boberg for the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, still stands as a crown jewel of the museum's collection, a true link between the U.S. and Sweden. And speaking of jewels, the museum's grounds, spanning 15 acres, include not just the old mill and the Swedish pavilion, but also a restored Union Pacific train engine, a one-room schoolhouse, the first McPherson County Courthouse, prospector's shop, a log cabin, and much more. They even have a beautiful rustic campground alongside the river, perfect for immersing yourself in nature and history. We also learned about the incredible upgrades and restorations the museum has accomplished recently, thanks in part to a generous $250,000 grant. They've repainted and repaired several buildings, installed historically accurate windows, improved ADA access, updated the mill courtyard, restored a 1908 windmill, installed a new roof on the schoolhouse, and added security systems and custom ironwork, all while continuing to digitize and preserve thousands of historic photos, documents, and artifacts. Their Flickr archive now hosts several thousand historic images. But the work isn't done. The museum is currently seeking community support for 3 very important initiatives. A new historically accurate roof for the Swedish pavilion. This is vital preservation work, so please donate. The development of a new rotating exhibit area to help keep the museum fresh and dynamic for repeat visitors. More volunteers, especially those with skills in education, artifact curation, archival work, or building maintenance. If you love history, this is your chance to be part of something meaningful. And as we've said many times on this program, history doesn't preserve itself. It takes people, like Aubrey, her small but mighty team, and dedicated volunteers. It takes vision, labor, passion, and yes, it takes resources, and people just having fun. So if you were inspired by today's episode, and I sincerely hope you were, consider supporting this extraordinary museum. Whether through a membership, a donation, volunteering your time, or simply spreading the word, your support helps ensure the rich cultural tapestry of Lindsborg and the Smoky Valley continues to thrive for generations to come. Now let me give you the contact information one last time. Their website is oldmillmuseum.org. Their address is 120 East Mill Street in Lindsborg, Kansas, 67456. You can phone them at 785-227-3595. Their email is oldmillmuseum@gmail.com. You can search on Flickr for Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum. On Facebook, they're at Old Mill Museum Lindsborg. And on Instagram and YouTube, at Lindsborg Mill. Admission is free for ages 0 to 5, $5 for students, and $10 general admission. Free will donations are always welcome, and go a long way in helping preserve this vital piece of our national story. Aubrey, on behalf of all our listeners and the entire Preservation Oaks family, thank you for sharing your time, your expertise, and your heart. You've given us not only a deeper appreciation of Lindsborg's Swedish heritage, but a shining example of what a small group of passionate people can accomplish. And to our listeners, thank you as always for joining us. If you know someone who would love this episode, please share it. You're the reason this show grows, and you're helping to spotlight incredible institutions like the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum. All right? If questions occur to you and you'd like more information, please connect with the Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum via the contact information provided. If you're a listener in the area the organization serves, or if you're a listener researching ancestors in the community the organization serves, and you're not already a member, please consider joining and supporting them. I hope this information helps the audience understand how valuable the organization is to the community and what kinds of excellent services they have to offer to their members and the public. The Lindsborg Old Mill and Swedish Heritage Museum is truly one of our nation's preservation oaks. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. Music used today is from Cymbalbird, Ilians Productions, Lindsjo Music, traditional Swedish folk music by @CS_ZARIT, Epidemic Sound, traditional Swedish folk music instrumental, Den Lusenhaligen, Smid, Echo Brains, Sync Hits, Loops Lab, and Scott Holmes. See you all next time on Preservation Oaks, and until then, keep on giving and keep on living the good life.
Microstream Radio is a registered trademark. You can visit at www.microstreamradio.com. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted by Microstream Radio. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, reproduced, copied, or used anywhere without the written permission of Microstream Radio. Preservation Oaks starring Sean Radcliffe originates in Salt Lake City, Utah. Be sure to join us for our next episode on your favorite podcast platform. This is Sarah Suarez speaking. Preservation Oaks has come to you through the worldwide podcast platform Podbean, and our home is preservationoaks.podbean.com. Hopefully you found today's episode useful, informative, and thought-provoking. If so, please like, follow, comment, and/or subscribe. Remember that being free means being free to be curious, and that historical and genealogical societies and museums allow us to discover the past, be free to explore, where curiosity opens every door. Thanks to everyone for listening. Stay cozy, curious, and keep exploring the incredible stories that shape our world. Remember to cherish and support the preservation of history in your own communities. The content of this program is provided for educational and informational purposes only. Some material included in this program may be copyrighted by third parties. However, under Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act, the doctrine of fair use allows the limited use of copyrighted material without requiring permission from the rights holders when used for purposes such as education, criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. These uses are legally permitted even if they might otherwise constitute infringement. If you wish to use copyrighted material from this program for purposes beyond fair use, you must obtain permission from the copyright owner. If you believe your copyrighted material has been used in this program in a way that does not qualify as fair use, please contact us at preservationoaks@gmail.com. Thank you.